Good morning. Good morning. Hi, my name is David Theus, and you are watching and or listening to another episode of the Saturday Morning Coaching Call. We're at episode number 15. Can you imagine that? And the Saturday Morning Coaching Call is brought to you by the Small Business Patriot. And you can find us under that moniker, the Small Business Patriot, here on YouTube channel, as well as Spotify or wherever you might listen to your podcast. How do you take your podcast? The Saturday Morning Coaching Call brought to you by the Small Business Patriot. My co-host today, again, Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions. She's located out in St. Augustine, Florida, which is in St. Johns County, Florida. And before we let Peggy introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her company and what she does and how she helps her customers spread the word, I just want to open, we've been doing this now 15 episodes today, and we feel fairly confident that we've got our legs up underneath us, so we know what we're doing. And I would like to put an open invitation out. If you'd like to join us, if you're here, I guess you could be anywhere in the country, right, Peggy? I mean, they could come to us anywhere in the country, but we're located in Northeast Florida, Clay County, St. Johns County, and Duval County. Is kind of our center of influence. But if you come to us anywhere in the country and you want to be a guest on this show, I'm going to put up my email, davidtheus.coaching@gmail.com, in the show notes. Drop me a line with your contact information so I can reach out to you and have a discussion, kind of vet you a little bit. And we'd love to have you on the show and give you a chance. The real benefit is you get some insight and some knowledge, but you get a chance to promote yourself and your company as well. And for the grand total price of $0. So it's a heck of a deal. And we just feel like this is a service that we can bring to our fellow business owners here in Northeast Florida, as well as those who might be listening anywhere else in the country or the world. So anyway, let's get started. Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions. If you'll give us a chance, I've kind of introduced you, but you take the mic and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company.
Okay, 21K Promotions, and I'm a branding specialist, and my tagline is actually your marketing partner. So once again, what I do is I provide branded merchandise for any size business, organization, clubs, churches, individuals, and so forth. And when I say marketing partner, that means, I would rather have a meeting with you, find out what your needs are, what your pain points are, and kind of have a little interview. And then from there, I go to work and I start searching out ideas and recommendations for the client. We move forward after that. So that's what we do. And my website is easy to remember. It's 21kpromotions.com.
Pretty cool. And I have to give you some props. I believe it's easy to say that you author or you tailor solutions to your client by listening intently and understanding to the best of your ability what the customer wants. There's a lot of nuances in what you do, especially if someone has a marketing event or a promotional event coming up, or just relaying their mission statement, if you will, in their own company. And you do a great job on providing what I call tailored solutions, and that's important. So there's plenty of options to choose from in your industry, and it's easy just to kind of tick the boxes and pick one. But I think you really go the extra mile to make sure your clients get not only what they're looking for, but what best represents the story they're trying to tell. So hats off. That's what I think sets you apart. That's one of the differentiators for sure in what you do. Okay. Now, in keeping with what we do over 14 episodes, and like I said, we've got this figured out. Peggy has done a great job by being in the field and working every day like we do, coming up with some ideas. I'm racking my brain to come up with some ideas too, but I'm kind of the sounding board. She throws out an idea to us or a question, and then we both discuss it. And then as I like to say, I wrap it up with a bow, and so we can put it up on the shelf and in the episode. And we've been successfully doing this within about 30 minutes. Last week's episode was a little bit long, but just so everybody knows, in real time, it's 9:07 Eastern Standard Time. So we'll get started. And if Peggy, if you'll share your idea or concept or concern, what you got?
Okay, so my concern is, how do you balance your time between finding new clients and client retention? Both are equally important. So,
Okay, let me make some notes here as I bend my head over. I'm not avoiding you. I'm just trying to make some notes. So balance time between finding new clients. I guess you would put servicing clients in the middle there somewhere, wouldn't you? Because that's part of the process. You got to find them, then you go.
well, and you have to service them, of course. I've seen statistics before about, what it costs to sell to an existing client versus going out to find a new client, the loss you take. If you don't service, service, there you go.
Okay. Okay. That is keep in mind, as a small business owner, most of us, I would say someone told me the other day that I think it's safe to say that every business, Google, Amazon, every business started off as a small business. So it's Ford Motor Company. One guy had an idea and launched, and then it became what it is today. So every business, I think we can safely say every business started as a small business. And so probably one, maybe two, a handful of people. And that they were master jugglers. If they made it to the next, series of steps, they did so because they were master jugglers of getting all this stuff done under the same 24 hours a day. And so the challenge, as Peggy has illuminated, is how do we balance that time of finding customers, retaining customers, and then what is the cost associated with those sort of things, and then somehow servicing the customers along the way as well. So I look at this as kind of a bell curve. And at some point, I'm going to get really savvy with some graphics. In case you don't know, those that are listening and watching, this is on the fly. We don't do any post-production edit, and I'm fielding questions as they come. She doesn't hit me with these the night before or the week before. We spent about 3 minutes before the show starts, and I said, give me the idea what you're talking about. And my mind goes into overdrive, and we're making this up on the fly. So anyway, so a bell curve. Everyone can visualize, a bell curve, just like so. And the left side of the bell curve is the starting point, which would be the prospecting and finding customers. The center section of the bell curve would be the servicing of clients. And then maybe the last third or so of the bell curve would be the things that we do to maintain and retain those clients. Somewhere along the way, financial services basically taught me that it's much cheaper. Let me back up. It's somewhat terribly expensive to find a customer. First of all, if you think about the process that goes into landing XYZ company from ground zero, you have to start today and go out and find a company. Just the process of getting in your car or picking up the phone and obtaining a list to call from, all those front-loaded costs go into that first client. And so, and each client after that, quite frankly, but to try to measure how much that cost, there's some national standards, like in the restaurant business, we could probably query some national surveys and find out what does it cost to get a new customer to your restaurant. I think I've seen those numbers before. I don't have that number in front of me, what it is. In the financial services business, I determined for my unique business that I would be willing to pay $35 a lead. And that lead is someone that I set parameters to what I was looking for. So if I talked to you, Peggy, and said, hey, would you do me a favor, keep your eyes and ears open for this type of person, this type of demographic, these kind of list of things that I'm looking for. And that's really important if you're going to play this game. Again, know who your customer is. And I would be willing to pay you $35 per person. Now, legally, just so everybody knows, in the financial services business, I can't pay Peggy when the person does business, because then I'm rewarding or compensating an unlicensed agent or securities exchange person. And so I have to set the table and say, I'll take anybody who's living and breathing that meets this criteria, whether they buy or not, I'll give you $35. Now, if we apply, it's funny, I talked about this yesterday. If we apply the standard metrics, and I'm going to use the word standard very loosely, that 1 in 10 will buy. Okay, you've heard that before, that 1 in 10 people. If you knock on 9 doors, the next one's going to be a sell or thereabouts statistically. And the caveat there is it's different for each industry. So I'll come back around to that. But if 1 in 10 buy and you give me 10 leads of the criteria I'm looking for, and I pay you $35, then we can figure the simple math and say that sale of that new customer cost me $350. And that doesn't include the time, my time that I had to talk to 9 people before I got to the sale. So depending on what your hourly rate is, if my hourly rate is $100 and I spend 90 minutes with each one of those people to determine I'm not going to do business with them, I mean, there's some more math we can do pretty quickly. And so that first customer, what is it? Renee Eipel says she doesn't do public math. That first customer is going to be 1350 plus 350 is 1700 bucks. So to get to one customer, we're talking anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000 to land the one customer. So that can get pretty expensive. That's just in the industry which I'm talking about, financial services, and just in the demographics that I've laid out for you to look for. My clients were not the most well-heeled. They weren't the most wealthiest, and they weren't the least wealthiest. You could apply that same scenario to a guy who sits across the table from someone with a minimum of $1 million in funds to be managed. I would typically take someone with a minimum of $250,000 and up, but a guy like in my office would maybe only take someone with $1 million in net worth, and that number from $1,500 to $2,000 for the first customer opportunity could go to $5,000 to $10,000 in cost of his time, and because he may pay, instead of $35 a lead, he may pay $100 a lead. $100 a lead, 10 leads, there's $1,000 right there. Then his time at $200 an hour. Those intangibles we don't think about, but those are the realities of what we're spending time in. And just like your business, you're valued at an hourly rate. We don't charge people an hourly rate, but you can sit down and say, I make X amount of dollars a year. I work 2,000 hours a year, divide that number, and you can come up with your hourly rate. And then what does it cost for you to have a lead? And then how much time do you spend with each of those 9 people before the one guy buys? Pretty expensive. So I think we can make an argument for the finding of the customer, the initial steps to go out and find a new customer from scratch is expensive. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely, definitely.
So, which leads to the second phase of servicing your clients, and the importance of doing good and doing right by them, because it was so labor intensive and so arduous to find them. The last thing you want to do is lose them. And we talked about this in an earlier episode about some industries and the financial services. Again, this is just popping in my head. There's a statistic that says once you land Jane Doe or Bob, whoever it is, the potential for 6 new transactions to happen over the course of your career path with these people, it's give or take about 6 different transactions where you're actually going to be able to place them into a product or a plan, and you're going to be able to derive some compensation for it. So if that guy or gal that I've landed now that cost me $2,000, $3,000 to land, if I take care of them properly, I have a pretty good idea that I'm going to land 6 more opportunities. I don't know what they're going to be or how big they're going to be, but I have another opportunity to place them in 6 other compensatory opportunities where I'm going to get paid for it. So hopefully the break even and you're making money on it. If it costs you $3,000 to get them, now I can say with pretty much confidence in my business, $3,000. Okay, I spent $3,000 to get you. I could have one transaction that would pay for that 2, 3, 4 times. So it behooved me to spend as much energy and to be as diligent as possible to service that client, not just because of the altruism and the fact that that's what we should be doing. That's what we're charged to do, is make sure our clients are taken care of and put them first and make sure that their needs are taken care of. But it also makes economic sense to recoup some of the initial investment of trying to find that person. And then the last phase of this is which speaks to the service part, is retaining the customer. Now I'm kind of giving you an overview, and for those of you who've watched me a couple times, you'll start hopefully realize that Dave kind of, this is where I do things. I recap and kind of draw a big picture, then we get down and dirty, I guess. But the last part of that, retaining your customer, really is a dovetail operation or a dovetail feature of the service prospect, the service proposition. What type of service are you providing? You're not just there trying to sell them something, but you're a trusted resource for the customer. They've become a friend even, and you're a valued person to their organization. So they want to keep you as much as you want to keep them, is what I'm trying to say. So there's some mechanics as far as laying out your calendar, how that happens. And I've spoken to this too, as far as scheduling. My background is, most of my background of 30 years of being self-employed has been in a B2B world, a business to business. And Peggy, you're in that space. You may sell to a club or a church or some sort of non-for-profit organization, but that's still a business to business situation. Have you ever provided services to an individual that, I guess a campaign you could do? Have you ever sold buttons or collateral material to someone running for a public office?
Yes, I have done that. So that's more of a it's, the end user, not business to business in that situation.
It's closer to B2C, but you can make the argument that a campaign is a business, I guess.
Well, yeah. And there are times when, families are having reunions or whatever, and then I will send them buttons or whatever. Did you
hear that, folks? There could be a reunion for a family, and you need those kind of things to document the reunion. So yeah. The point I was trying to make, though, is most of my experience has been business to business. And so when I meet those folks, there's a cycle within the calendar that I can put together pretty quickly, versus a business to consumer. Although in the financial services, what I typically did was all my book of business was business owners and their family members. And so my initial contact was that business to business. And then once I sat across the table and earned their business, they would refer me and say, listen, my wife needs some help, or my graduating son or daughter from college is getting ready to, take on an adult life. Can you help them? So I never really did a lot of prospecting for business to consumer in my line of work. It was always started at the business owner's front door. And even in my furniture business for 13 years, I never sold. I would never call you, Peggy, and say, can I sell you one office chair? And unless you were the gal that did the purchasing for 1,000 office chairs, that would never happen. So before I go on to the next step, does this raise any thoughts, or am I barking up the right tree so far as your question?
Well, yes, you are, because once again, we do have to continue to be out there bringing in new customers, new clients, but we need to service and take care of our existing clients. So it's kind of a juggling time.
So before I get to the scheduling idea, how do we lessen the cost? That's the first thing that I want to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about. And so we've discovered, in very cursory approach, that there are some costs associated with finding a new customer. And it's going to be different depending on your industry, but I've given you I think a pretty sound example. It could be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, dependent upon the parameters I talked about. There's a front load cost we can all agree upon to find a new customer. Now, once we've landed a new customer, then our job, our duty, or our concern is to recoup some of that investment. And we do that by servicing them properly and putting them first and taking care of them, which in turn allows them to purchase from us. And our gross profit goes against that cost of, initiating that first response. The second half of that equation, and everyone should know this, is the referral. The referral is not only the best opportunity to land a new customer, it's also the least expensive on a pound for pound unit cost to land a new customer. But it happens to be, for some people, and including myself in the beginning, the most difficult. I don't know what it is, if we're somewhat masochist or not. And to get people to understand the concept of the referral process, most people that I've run across, and I was part of that group in the beginning, would rather go beat our heads against the wall and go knock on 400 doors to get told no before someone said yes. And when there's a referral process that we could be using and not have to beat our heads on the doors, on the wall so many times, and have probably much better response rate at a less cost. I think it comes down to fear, first of all. And I don't know why I try to, I'm a student of trying to understand people's motivation, but you follow what I'm thinking about here? As far as sometimes it's just what we know. It's easier for me to go out and get rejected and talk to this guy, that gal, or whomever, and then find one, versus have the customer in front of me. Then dare I ask for you to refer me to somebody? It's a learning curve, I guess. But once you finally wake up and figure out that, gee, that's a lot easier for me to ask this guy who trusts me, who knows me, who's worked with me, seen me in action, and who seems to be pretty happy with me because they've purchased stuff and they keep coming back. What if I just ask this person if they know someone else that I might be able to help? The language I typically use is, hey, listen, you've experienced Dave in the flesh. You've seen me work and seen the work I do. Is there anyone that comes to mind that could use the same type of service? I mean, can you think of someone that I might be able? I'm just asking for a chance to have a conversation. I'm not trying to get you to broker the deal for me. I'm not asking you to be my agent. I'm just thinking, do you know someone else, a fellow business owner, someone you attend church with, or an alum that you've gone to school with that might benefit from the relationship that you and I have? And once you get a mastery, of that kind of conversation, then suddenly a light bulb comes on and you start to drive that horse full steam ahead. You can do the math and figure that $2,500 initial front loaded cost. And by you starting that, you could have one client that you spend all that front load on to get them to be your client, give you 10s to 20s, 30s referrals at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
So once that sinks in, then suddenly, I hope, and if you need some help with this, I'd love to help, but I hope that sinks in such a rate that you're like, wait a minute, it cost me that much money to get this guy, and all I had to do was ask this guy if he knew someone else. So suddenly the return on investment requirement is diminished. That once you land this new client who comes to you via referral, then every sale after that is positive cash flow, except for your cost of goods sold, whatever it is. But if you came to me, Peggy, and when you and I've done some business together, and however long it took for us to establish that relationship, I don't know that you spent a lot of money on me, but you spent time for us to get to know each other, and I refer you to someone, that's a freebie, right? I mean, really. So the referral piece of this proposition is huge. And as we as we enter into an arena that's really getting to be cost prohibitive, we're all approaching this business cycle that we're in because of our this is the small business patriot talking now. That's becoming cost prohibitive. I mean, we analyze everything. When do I get in my car and drive somewhere because of gas prices? How much is my time worth? And because of inflation, can I get that money back? And so we really need to sharpen our pencils and sharpen the way we approach the marketplace now, and think about how can we best maximize our return with the limited 24 hours in a day that we have. And if you're not using the referral system, you've got to trim that cost, that front load cost of finding the customer. You got to figure out a way to make it more efficient and less expensive to do that. And the referral is the way to go. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that, the referral process, although I think we need to practice, a system, because we tend to let that slide by. You're visiting with a client, you just produced a beautiful order, they're very, very happy. That's when you're supposed to say, hey, is there somebody that that you think I could work with, and so on. So we need to keep it top of mind.
Yeah, and I know personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know where my hurdles were. I call them speed bumps or roadblocks or potholes or whatever. But I know in my space where my problem was, and it was pretty straightforward. I saw the it's not a good word, the challenge of getting this customer, to find customer A without a referral, was very challenging. And I worked very diligently to do it. And I felt like once I finally had that customer, and it wasn't about landing the sale, but getting them to trust me and have that relationship, and then providing a tailored solution to their needs and concerns, doing everything right, putting the customer first, and doing fact finding, or what do we call that in the financial services? Needs-based selling, doing needs-based selling. So I wasn't just trying to pump them up with some stuff that was the special of the day that my manager says we got to move. I was providing services based on their needs-based selling. And so all those things, when I finally got to the point where they put the ink on the paper and handed me the check, I just felt like, man, now I got to ask him for one more thing. I got to ask him for one more sale in the form of, can you tell me someone that might need this service? And I just felt, in the beginning, I would always put myself in their shoes artificially, because what I found out later is they wanted to tell me people, because when you ask for a referral and you get it, it's not just you winning. The client that you're asking for the referral, this is important. The client that you're asking for the referral is winning too, because just like any of us, have you ever met someone who's had some medical issues and you ask them who their doctor is? Has any of your friends ever said, oh, this guy's the worst physician ever? No, they always say this guy's he's the best at Mayo. He's the best in his field. Nobody wants to work with someone who's horrible. That may happen. But I've never heard someone say, hey, can you recommend a cardiologist for me? Yeah, my guy's the absolute worst. Bottom of his class. He's horrible bedside manner. The scar he left on me is, I think it's a tree. I don't know what it is. Yeah, this is the guy you should call. No, that they don't do that. They want to be the guy or gal who can share you with a trusted friend of theirs because you've done right by them. And they really want to sing your praises, because what they get out of it is they get goodwill to their friends. They get recognized by hey, this guy did me a solid. He turned me on to Dave Theus. He turned me on to Peggy Lynch, and Peggy took care of him. And this Peggy's really taking care of me too. And so we're missing that opportunity when we don't ask for a referral, to give our clients the opportunity to shine, to be a hero to their friends. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I know that you and I and other people, that like-minded folks that are part of our organization, Northeast Florida Business Alliance, we want to do what's best for our clients, and then ultimately have our clients sing our praises and give them the opportunity to go out and share with a friend that you've got to do business with these people, that this person hung the moon for me, and they want to tell that. And by not asking for the referral, we are taking that opportunity away from them. And so once I recognized that element, then it ceased to be another sale. It turned into an opportunity. So instead of me saying, okay, you just wrote a check for $45,000 to me, can you do me a solid and give me another name so I can do the same thing to them? No, it was about, I took care of your needs and concerns based on the information that you shared with me. And based on the information you shared with Peggy, she went out and found that item that no one else could find and brought that great solution to the table. Wouldn't you like to share that with one of your best friends, and that you found this jewel in the needle in the haystack, and you get to be the hero when you tell your friend about this person? That's what it's about. That's the beauty of the referral. It's hard to comprehend at first because the perception's a little bit different.
Well, I think, because of the parallel that you made between a personal referral, such as, referring a doctor that you prefer over to your good friend, and a business referral where you need to ask after they've given you X amount of dollars and signed the check. So I think if we could kind of look at how often we naturally do personal referrals, if we go to a restaurant that we love, we start telling everybody about it. So that's a natural thing for us to do. If we could try to make the business referral more natural.
I think the hang up is self-inflicted because I got money from you.
Right.
So, by the way, I paid the cardiologist too. He sent me a bill and I had to pay him or her. It's funny you say that because we have a Facebook group called Clay Eats, CLAYEATS, all one word, Clay Eats. And we had a lady post a horrible review of a local restaurant, and I didn't post it. I didn't share it because I blocked it. And she this morning was raving about, how come my post didn't go up? That's bull. You can't do that. And so my response was, we are a site to celebrate. That we are not a gripe site to talk about who's doing it wrong. We are a site to celebrate who's doing it right.
Mhm.
So there's a natural tendency in the world today to bitch and moan about being wronged. It feels good somehow. I get my pound of flesh. I can't right the wrong, but I'm going to let somebody hear about it. Some inner workings of us as humans, we just need to get our pound of flesh. And so it's natural, but it's less natural for us to sing somebody's praises when that should be the positive thing that we're trying to do. And so I liked what I wrote today in the response. I'm going to use it over and over again, but we are not a gripe site. I'm talking about Clay Eats now. We are a site to celebrate those places that are doing it right. It's a reverse Polish ideology. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but that's something people will understand. It's a different way of looking at things, and it should be the same way with the referral. We should be confident and energized to share someone who took care of us, and really to give our client the opportunity to do that. Now, you got to, I'm confident in my own skin that I'm going to do what's right because I get up every morning, and that's my goal, to go serve my customer to the best of my ability, and what comes of it will come. And they know that because they've stayed with you long enough and they've worked with you. And all we're saying is give that person the opportunity to sing our praises. And that's how it works. Okay. Now, the retention part, I think we've covered it, because within that space of taking care of our client, it's just part of the investment. You're just going to have to do your job, and you're going to have to, what do you like to say, not only meet your customers' expectations, but exceed them.
Right.
And you can't exceed them every waking moment, but you can strive for that. And it comes through, it shines through when that customer sees you. You get a phone call from someone, and this happens, and maybe you don't return the phone call as fast as you could have because you had, 15 plates in the air, but you do return and communicate and apologize that here's the reason why, but I just want to let you know I'm working for you, but thanks for being patient. Communicate's a big part of that. Constantly communicate with people, because when you don't communicate, they start to conjure up ideas of what's going on, and maybe she doesn't like me anymore, or whatever it is. So the retention piece, of course, we don't want to lose that customer that we fought so hard to get, and especially the one that we got for free from the referral. I mean, that's money in the bank. I mean, we want to think of it from a sheer ROI side. We don't want to lose that one because that helps spread the cost out to the other ones. In a previous episode, we talked about what is the life cycle of a client, and in the financial services, we talked about from cradle to grave, literally from the child's birth. We put things in place to plan for their future to the point of them dying, and how we deploy and distribute their assets. And that's the same thing for all of our customers or all of our industry. You're not selling promotional products, well, I guess you could, to infants, but from the very beginnings of their company, that would be the cradle, or their organization, to the time that you part ways. So the retention piece of it is huge. We want to keep that person in a working relationship, because not only they're going to do business with us and write checks and trade, commerce, but they're going to be a source for referrals. They're going to continue to be a source of free contacts. And that, I think, is probably as important, if not more important, than the other way around. So I have one scheduling tip. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think I've shared this before, but how do you do that as a small business owner or a one-person shop? Let me check on what time it is. And I feel like I'm running long. Okay, so we started, this is where I'm getting ready to close, so this is good. Any thoughts from you before I go to what I'm going to call the close?
No, I'm ready.
Okay. So I've talked about this before in the scheduling, Dave's schedule for business to business. And it's funny because I'm getting ready to expand something that we're working on from a Promote Clay standpoint. And we're having this discussion now that we're going to take our success story from Clay County and move into St. Johns County and Duval County. And so it just happens to be 3 entities, and the week sets up with 5 days. So Mondays for me have always been business in the office days, because most of I won't get into this whole diatribe of my week according to Dave, but most people can understand that people are in their office on Monday doing the catch-up work, and that's their administrative day. And so I can use that as my administrative day as well, and my day to call people and set appointments. But Tuesdays right now, it looks like we're going to be in St. Johns County with our little song and dance show. And then Wednesdays we'll be in Duval County with our little song and dance show. And Thursdays, which we've been doing for 4 years, we'll stay in Clay County. And those are the days I'm going to be in the field. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll have my trusty phone with me, and I'll be making phone calls in between events, and I'll be seeing people face to face in their offices and their place of business. Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, lunches and evenings. And then Friday will be a cleanup day, and I may pick up some coaching clients during the mornings on Fridays. But I'll be back in the office. We may put together a Zoom call, like a Friday afternoon recap, but it'll be happening from my home base in my office. So if you picture that bell curve I talked about, the bell starting on the left side is Monday. And as we ramp up into Tuesday into St. Johns County, Wednesday into Duval, and Thursday into Clay, and then wrapping it up Friday coming back to the office. So seems to work for me and my 30 plus years of business to business. That seems to be a cycle that's been consistent and worked. That would be the part where I would just kind of wrap up, put the bow on this conversation. Does that help make sense on the initial question?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm ready for the ball, David.
All right. Well, here we are again. I really am enjoying the challenge that you, as I said in the beginning of the show, there's no preemptive to this other than about 3 minutes before we click the button to start recording. She gives me kind of an overview of what the topic is. And I'm, without sounding braggadocious, I'm really kind of amazed at my ability to draw from. I guess I've been in business for 30 plus years, so I've seen a lot of stuff and I've been involved in a lot of stuff, and it just surprises me every day that I'm able to pull stuff out of the hat, and talk about it. And some of you may be saying this guy's full of junk, but it seems cohesive. It seems like it's what I know. So I'm just amazed at the ability that God's laid upon my heart and my brain to pull stuff out and talk about it. And I'm excited about it. So if I can be helpful to someone, that's icing on the cake. Okay.
It is pretty amazing, David, the way you do respond, and you suddenly have all this knowledge right there in front of you, as though you've rehearsed this, and we have not rehearsed.
No, I'm equally amazed. I'm on the Zoom call here. I can see you and see me in the camera. For those of you that are listening on Spotify, you don't get that effect, but come over to YouTube channel and subscribe, like and follow. But I kind of catch myself and I'm like, is there somebody else in the room, or is someone else? You're actually saying this stuff, Dave. So I don't know. This is a different position for me to be in. I've been the person who's in front of the client most of the time, and now I'm sharing information of my experiences, which is slightly different. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it, and hopefully I'm hoping that someone else is benefiting from this, not just to hear myself talk. Okay, let's wrap up with some show notes real quick. Again, my name is David Theus, and Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions out of St. Augustine, Florida, the small drinking village with a fishing problem we talked about last time. If you haven't been to, I think it's the oldest city in the country, right? St. Augustine is the oldest city in in the United States. The Spaniards, and what a beautiful city, first of all. And if you love people watching and getting out in the beautiful Florida sunshine, get yourself over to St. Augustine and take a day of it and go shopping and walking and eat at the local eateries and just enjoy the scenery and the people. It's a hoot. But that's nestled in St. Johns County, and there's some great things going on. It's right on the Atlantic Ocean. It's right up against the Intracoastal Waterway. The Matanza River, which is part of the Intercoastal, it's just beautiful water, beautiful scenery, and just a fun little place to be a part of. And Peggy gets the opportunity to live there and work there. So, and as you've shared before, your business with an internet connection and a Zoom call and a phone call, you can operate in 5 to 7 other states. So if you think you've learned something from Peggy and you'd like to have someone like her on your team to help promote your company and the things that you're doing, give Peggy a call, and I'll make sure that I'll put your email address and your website in the show notes as well. And again, if someone makes it all the way to the end of the video and you'd like to be a guest on our show, we'd love to have you. I'll put my email address in the show notes as well. Drop me a line with your contact information so I can give you a call. We can have a brief conversation to vet you. I'm going to be straightforward with you. And if you're in the Clay County, St. Johns County, Duval County area, we'd love to have you. And if you're coming to this from another part of the country, we welcome that as well. That'd be kind of cool. We've got this technology. Why not? Let's expand our horizons. And the cost to you is absolutely your time. That's all. So some people look at me and go, Theus, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? But I don't know. I'm at a point in my life where I've learned that to give back is pretty important stuff. Okay.
Great.
I think this wraps us up. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a prosperous week. And for you folks that are listening and watching us this morning and on the replay, stay vigilant, folks. Stay vigilant, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
See you, David. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.